Welcome to the Muskego Norway School Board meeting. This meeting has been posted, attendance roll call.
Bob Ballman, here. Chris Buckmaster, here. Dean Strong, here. Brett Hyde, here. Lisa Warwick, Kevin Schrader, and Rick McCalston. They're all present.
Thank you. Mr. Buckmaster, can you do this in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance. Certainly will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Wow, we got a full house tonight. Something exciting in the agenda, or just wanted to see school board meeting?
Yes.
Moving ahead with the agenda. Approval of the agenda. Item E.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the agenda as presented? All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 2, consent agenda. Can I get a motion for consent agenda? Anybody?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any items in consent agenda that need separate consideration or questions?
Just have a question. Under E, employment matters, is that something we're going to talk about later in closed session?
No.
Okay. Well,
There was one under here. I think it was a matter of, I think it said Rick called the meeting to order and he was not present.
Oh, you're talking about the
minutes.
minutes?
Yes, the minutes.
Open session or closed?
Well, maybe you weren't present and I was. No. You what?
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Those are closed ones?
Maybe that's why I can't find it
I
right now.
had a T after it too. Okay, very good. Not often mistaken for that, but, yeah.
Anything else? All right. Having answered all questions, all those in favor of consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Student representation. Do we have a substitute tonight, I understand?
Yeah, my name's Caleb Beeson, and I'm
You want
the
to go to the
Do
mic?
you want, could you stand by the microphone?
Sorry.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. My name's Caleb Beeson. I'm the Ways and Means position on the Muskego High School Student Council Executive Board.
Welcome.
Heidelin Lucas can't be here tonight because she's at the musical rehearsal. I'm going to start off by saying congratulations to the girls basketball team as they had 2 big wins last week in the Classic A Conference. They beat conference leader Kettle Moraine with a score of 44-37, and then beat Waukesha South on Friday, 67-51. The boys swim team placed second at the section meet 2 weekends away. The team did an amazing job with 3 relays and 3 individual events qualifying for state. The Warriors returned home this past weekend from state swim as the 24th best team in the state's Division 1. The varsity wrestling team placed 3rd at the WIA Regional on Saturday. In all, 9 Warriors advanced to the sectional tournament this weekend. Great work. Also, congratulations to 3 Warriors who all qualified for the WIA State Wrestling Tournament this weekend in Madison. The Muskego High School Musical Sister Act is coming up. Tickets are still available for this year's musical Sister Act. They can be purchased at www.mhspac.com or in the activities office at the high school. The musical is February 23rd to the 26th. Lastly, the Engineering Design Development class, a Project Lead the Way capstone class at Muskego High School, participated at the Capital Science and Engineering Fair in Madison, Wisconsin this past Saturday. All 6 of the teams were praised for the professionalism of their work. This coming Saturday, they will participate at the Waukesha College Science and Engineering Fair at UW Waukesha. And that's all.
Does anyone have any questions for me before he runs off? Be nice to him. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 4, public forum. With all these people here, surely someone must want to tell us something. Hearing none? All right, moving on. Superintendent's report, Dr. Thompson.
Okay, we get to start with 2 sets of recognition. We're going to first recognize the dance team for their first place state finish.
Wow.
alphabetical order, okay? So,
Technical difficulties, 1 second.
we're going to do some music here too.
Ready, 1, 2, 3, and... Thought I'd get that in first, sir.
All right, so we have a certificate of appreciation for each of you. I'm just going to read the first one, and then after that, I'll just read your names off, because they all say the same thing. So, certificate of appreciation. The Muskegon Norway School Board hereby commends, in this case, Katie Albel, for her contribution to the MHS dance team and the Badgerette State, in the Badgerette State Tournament. Through its dedication and pursuits of excellence, the MHS dance team earned the state championship in POMS and the second place in jazz and hip hop. The Muskegon Norway School Board commends the MHS dance team for its outstanding performance that has brought honor to each other, their families, and the Muskegon Norway schools community. The school board congratulates Katie for her contribution and wishes her success in her future education and career endeavors. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then we have a certificate for, and I apologize ahead of time if I butcher your last name, but Celine Falcone. Congratulations. It's kind of practice like for graduation for you seniors. So, you know. Isabella Brzezinski. Rachel Brzezinski. Congratulations. Anna Callies. Congratulations. Aaron Conradi. Congratulations. Samantha Deacon. Congratulations. Allison Dewall. Congratulations, Alan. Chloe Drifka. Congratulations. Tatum Esser. Alyssa Colasari. Did I butcher that last one too? Perfect. Brianna Conley? Olivia Cromari? Cromari, right. Sydney, oh boy. Richdorf? Okay, sorry. Jenna Herenda. Congratulations. Catherine Harold. Congratulations. Jenna Horner. Congratulations. Kaylee Claiborne. Congratulations. Cassandra Maza. Congratulations. Ashley Niehaus. Congratulations. Samantha Niehaus. Congratulations. Rachel Pepez. Congratulations. Samantha Pearson. Gabriel Rank. Congratulations, Gabby. Emma Ross. Congratulations. Samantha Scala. Congratulations. Callista Stanek. Sorry. Taylor Sweeto. Congratulations. Allison Thompson. Molly. Julie.
All right, so we, yeah.
Actually, I'll sneak behind him. Why don't you guys do this?
They're so good at it. Yeah, so we're here, that thing should be the way it is. Is the mic in the way? We'll hold it, bring it down. That's getting information.
Yeah.
It only records.
Guys, ready? 1,
Doesn't amplify.
2, 3. 1, 2. Good.
Yay.
Who's taking it? Look at the one taking it.
They're used to it. I think for our friends, oh no, we did. We did the teacher one too.
And what we know is that for any very successful program is usually held up by a very successful coach. So we are honored to be recognizing Rich Rainey, our, where did he go? Oh, we had Gray on before. I was going for the
Nervous now.
All right.
So we have a certificate of appreciation. Close. Better. The Mosquito Norway School Board congratulates cross-country coach Rich Rainey on being named the Wisconsin Cross Country District 7 Coach of the Year by the Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Association. It is a distinct honor that you have been named by your peers for this recognition. The Muskego Norway School Board is pleased to commend Rich Rainey for leadership and coaching ability that brings honor not only to himself, but to the Muskego Norway community and to its student athletes to learn, grow, and succeed in the sport of cross country. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I think Rick should say a few words.
Perfect. Tell us about your seat.
Well, actually, this is 100% a result of the fact that I have an unbelievable administration that supports us, and most importantly, unbelievable families and unbelievable kids that I'm lucky to coach and work with every single day. So this has nothing to do with me. Everything is a reflection of them, and I'm just lucky to be the one that gets to sort of be the steward of it for now. But while I have all of your attention, May 6th.
What's he want?
May 6th, the girls and boys cross track teams host the Special Olympics, the District 8, which is southeastern Wisconsin, the District 8 Special Olympics track and field meet. We would love for anyone to come check it out. You can see our kids do stuff, and we see them do amazing things in the classroom. We see them do amazing things on the court, or in dance, or in the pool, or on the field. Now you have a chance to see them do an amazing thing with an incredible group of athletes like Special Olympics and really give back to the community. It's a great afternoon. It's a great morning. It's an even better afternoon. And I promise if you show up, I won't put you to work. Well, maybe Mama Warwick, but nobody else.
You're welcome to put me to work if you need help. My daughter is a Special Olympian, and she participates not in track and field, but swimming. But I can tell you, those of you who haven't seen any of these events, the joy and sense of accomplishment it brings to these athletes is immeasurable. And the fact that you and your team are helping out with that, it means a lot to these kids.
It's a great time. I think anyone who's been a part of it, I know Dr. Thompson has come, it's become a reason why a lot of kids even come out now. It's because it has fostered a lot of community in the building, and it's a good time. So I hope to see you guys all there.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's my honor to introduce the Mill Valley team as they give their annual report to the board. And Robin, if you want to introduce your team, I can.
Sure, absolutely. So welcome everyone. We're so excited that you could be here tonight. I'd like to start off with introductions. So I'm Robin Schroep, building principal. Laura Coons, associate principal. Elise Harris, math coach. Judd Milsey, school psychologist. Deanna Welsh, school social worker. All right, so to try to explain the hero behind tonight, the Mill Valley's theme for the 2016-17 school year is Envy Hero, helping everyone respect others. And so this school theme was generated because we surveyed the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade kiddos. And from the student survey results, they wanted to increase respect here at school. So, moving on. We kicked off the first week of school by having students participate in an all-school assembly hosted by Omega Man. And this program was a fun and exciting way to talk about issues such as bullying and peer pressure, making good choices, and to motivate our students towards exercising positive habits every day. So the NV students have been challenged to be the hero, helping everyone respect others. And just check out that strength of Omega Man. Even he can lift Mr. Gels up on his back. So moving on to academic heroes, we recognize that all students have something to celebrate in regards to their academics, and through all the innovative classroom structures, students can excel through differentiated instruction, goal setting, personalized learning, student choice, and we make it a priority to see all students learning, growing, and succeeding. So, speaking of growing, our goal for the 2015 school year was to meet an SGP of 35 on the STAR assessment, and as you can see, we far exceeded that goal. Overall, our percentage of students that were proficient was higher than the district average here at Mill Valley, and we realized that we have gap closing work to do in regards to our special education students, and we'll continue to work with our regular education as well as our special ed teachers to create those additional Tier 1 plans that are going to bridge our gap to the learning. Although our students were not all proficient, we did see that over 90% of our special education students made their SGP goal of 35 last year on the spring assessment compared to 20% in the fall. So this year, we challenged ourselves to that SGP of 50, and this past winter, we had 62% of our kindergarten through 1st grade students meet their SGP goal on the STAR Early Literacy Assessment, and 60% of the 2nd through 4th graders met this goal in the area of reading so far this year. Teachers are also acknowledging students through the MV Hero Award, which gives them all school recognition through their respectful actions. So each week, I play Super Schroet, and I dash into classrooms and I announce the MV Hero Awards. No surprise, the students absolutely love it. So, based on our MV Hero Awards, I randomly pull 2 students and I make a positive phone call home to their parents. We share what their child was recognized for, and then we ask them questions such as, what has gone well this school year? Is there anything else I can do to help foster your child's learning? So, and now we would like Jen to share how we can be student heroes through empathy lessons. So our classroom teachers have been using the Second Step program, which are lessons that it's a universal classroom-based program, and it teaches kids how to understand and manage their emotions, how to control their reactions and be aware of others' feelings, and have the skills to problem solve and make responsible decisions. And then each trimester we have a different character education trait that's emphasized. So for the first trimester we talked about empathy, and the students learned how to put themselves in someone else's shoes, and they made shoes and wrote examples of empathy on them. And the middle picture shows a bulletin board of all the different shoes that the kids made. And then they also discussed various scenarios and how they would respond with empathy. For second trimester, we are working on self-control, and the students learn how to gain self-control by using the stop light analogy, where red means stop if you're doing something wrong, yellow means to use caution and think to see if you're doing the right thing, and then green means to go ahead with confidence when you're doing the right thing. And we also created a video then to share with the school, which we're going to talk about next. And just as an aside, for third trimester, we're going to be working on integrity. So now we're going to watch part of the self-control video that we created, and the students are demonstrating the correct behavior, and then we have various staff members demonstrating the incorrect behavior.
Use your words to say your action. Think before you act. Set control means being able to stop, think before acting impulsively. When kids have better self-control, they do better in school and get along better with others. By learning self-control, kids can make good decisions and respond to the situation in ways that can be positive. I can't believe this is over.
We can show self-control by walking in quietly from recess and putting our coats away quietly. We can show self-control by raising our hand and waiting to be called on. We can show self-control by quietly getting ready for lunch and having everything ready.
But I'm at home napping. I'm still doing that. You don't want me next. Oh, yeah.
We can can show self-control by being on the appropriate computer app.
Shut down. It's time to shut down your Chromebooks.
We can show self-control by shutting down our device when told.
I don't have it. I think it's at home. I don't know if you can find it. Okay, you can share with me. So we were supposed to read chapters 2 through 4. And in chapter 2, in chapter 2, Ramona had to go to school, and she was getting in a fight on the bus. Kids got in a fight on my bus last night. But they got in trouble. Yeah, this is embarrassing when we get to. Okay, but guys, we're talking about the book. I'm making a connection. You know what I'm saying? It's my hat.
We can show self-control by staying on topic during book discussions. We can show self-control by taking books from peers and not taking books from others.
Make this problem and figure it out.
We can show self-control by doing the appropriate thing with our dry erase boards and following along with the class. Now it's your turn to show good self-control at Mill Valley.
Didn't seem like it was a big stretch for the staff of this.
Well, speaking of misbehaving, we also did a recess challenge for the students to help with playground behavior, which was an area that we noticed we had some significant referrals for. So each grade, every time they had a recess that that no one in their grade level got a behavior report, either major or minor, they got a link. When that link reached the floor, they got an extra recess. So we definitely noticed a decrease in our playground referrals. From September 1 to November 28th, there were 25 major playground referrals. From December 5th until February 10th, there were only 9. So not quite the same amount of time, but 2/3 of the time. So it made quite a big difference. That was exciting for us.
And so our students may not realize it yet, but before we know it, they'll be walking across the stage at Muskego High School for their own graduation. And so the foundation of respect and our second step lessons that we're setting here at Mill Valley are setting the foundation for them to be college and career ready. So we've added a few touches around the school, from graduation posters to our teacher profiles to spark the conversation, and a lot of questions from students to our teachers about what it means and what it could look like for them. And also our Mill Valley Reading Culture Group is connecting with families about respect. And our second semester of the school year, the family book bag, the theme will be on friendship. And that bulletin board is right on the opposite side of this wall, and it shows all of the students and their families taking the same book bag home and participating in activities together.
So, we are encouraged that all of our efforts around being respectful, be it academics or socially with our peers, will lead to greater success for the students as they continue their education in the Muskego Norway schools and beyond. Are there any questions from the board?
question kind of ties into the comment, aside from the misbehaving staff. The dry erase boards, is that pretty common for Validina? I kind of find that interesting because my grandmother taught, starting almost a century ago, and they used little handheld chalkboards.
Yeah.
Very same concept. Now we've kind of come back to that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. It's really for that immediate feedback, so a teacher could go, what's 6 plus 6? And then they quick do it, and then they quick flash it, and it holds that accountability, and the teacher on a quick check can get a pretty good idea who's getting it, or who's not, or who needs to be pulled to a small group for strategies. So yeah, pretty often. If you guys want to comment, feel free. Anything else?
So when you're recognizing the students as heroes, what are some of the things that they're recognized for?
Awesome. It is anything from academics of like, wow, I had one, a student had great character descriptions in a nonfiction historical unit, so it was academic the other day. Another one was, wow, like helped a classmate who was struggling and went the extra mile to get them caught up on work that they were having trouble with. So they really range from social to academic.
Okay, thanks.
And she does fly around in a cape too, so.
Anything else? Well, again, thank you. So many of you coming to support your team. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. The next two superintendent report items are actually led by Christy, right?
Just wanted to provide an update related to PI 26. And just as a reminder that PI 26 is the administrative rule for education for employment, which surprisingly has actually been around since 1984. And school districts have been strategic planning related to education for employment since that time. But it has gone through about 5 different revisions since that time. And so we are now looking at the most current vision of education for employment and what those new requirements entail. And so PI 26 requires that school districts show strategic actions related to researching labor market needs, and then education and training related to filling those needs, implementing a strategy to engage businesses, post-secondary education institutions, and the workforce in overall planning related for those needs, K-12 career awareness and exploration, a description and communication for our career technology education programming that we offer here in the district, the implementation of academic and career planning, also known as ACPs, and providing professional development to accomplish the needs for education for employment and academic and career planning. And lastly, engaging parents in the process of academic and career planning. And some of those things may sound familiar to you as they are directly referenced on this year's Eye on the Goal and past work that the district has been involved in. Other pieces are things that we're currently refining, and yet some of them are still ones that we're planning for the future. So if I can take you back to last spring, we conducted a survey for our community and our parents in which we titled Vision of a Graduate. We asked those parties what was most important for college and career readiness. And we got 350 responses back from our parents, 85 responses back from our educators, and then a handful of college and universities that we participate with, along with the chamber businesses and recent graduates that all identified what was the most important things related to college and career readiness. And we felt it was important to get a baseline of what our community values, so that when we look at PI 26, Education for Employment, and Academic and Career Planning, we know what is the value here in Muskego. We've done a lot of strategic planning already related to that, and currently we have teams that are conducting SWOT analysis, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They're identifying the gap between what that vision is and what our current state is, and then researching what other districts are doing and what best practice is. And then lastly, analyzing our curriculum. Some of that work is happening in small teams at individual buildings throughout our entire system. A lot of that work is happening at our secondary buildings. There's a lot of committee work with WCTC, Oshkosh, and CISA 1. because every school district is going through strategic planning related to education for employment and ACPs. So we're working together to help develop some of those things. But what I want to specifically focus on tonight is not the strategic planning around all of those concepts, but one that's highlighted in the document that's listed, Education for Employment Update Board. And specifically related to the implementation process to support 612 students to develop their ACPs. One of the things that we're currently looking at is our scope and sequence plan and how we accomplish that for all students. And we're going to be looking at how other districts accomplish that through their scheduling. And beginning this week, we're going to be researching what other districts are doing and conducting an analysis of things that what are important to our parents. And we'll be looking at specifically the middle school schedule, our courses offered at the middle school, our high school schedule, and the possibility of incorporating an advisory period, and where we conduct some of our academic and career planning and financial literacy standards, so that we have an idea of where these things are already happening, where we can further develop them, and if any of those things might impact the schedule. We're looking to bring possible schedules to the board no later than August 1st, or the first board meeting in August. And it would impact both the middle and high school level. So today I'm just giving you an update on that, and then I would appreciate if you had any feedback related to either the middle or high school schedule. You can either share it with me today or at a later date, but I'd be happy to take it back to those teams for us to consider more information from your perspective.
Thank you, Christy, for that update. Appreciate it. And then the next item is the CAP classes and AP registrations. This is a follow-up from the conversation we had when we implemented the CAP program at the high school.
Yep. So when we talk about our CAP courses, we really want to put them in the same category as our advanced placement courses, because what those two courses have in common is that they are both college-level courses. And so what we do know about offering college-level courses to students in high school is that it not only prepares them to be more successful in college, but it gives them a head start in college. And so we're really excited to be offering 28 AP offerings and a number of CAP course offerings through Oshkosh, both currently and beginning next year with CAP. So I'm really excited to share some of our registration numbers with you tonight. To date, we have 1,190 requests for one of our college-level courses. Again, that consists of either AP or CAP, and this is up from 1,062 requests from last year. Just some general trends that are bulleted out here and noticings are that enrollment in our college-level social studies classes continue to rise overall, and the growth in some classes attribute to a decrease in other AP enrollment classes. So for example, we're seeing really strong numbers in AP psychology, huge growth in AP human geography, up over 100 students from when we first introduced that class 2 years ago, and CAP military history. And we're seeing a decrease in some other social studies AP courses as a result. In addition, enrollment in AP Calculus A-B has had a significant drop from 16-17. However, we also noticed that in AP Statistics, there's a huge increase there. So both calculus and statistics are classes that are currently taken by seniors by about 75%. And so when students get to their senior year, they have a choice to take one or the other. And we're just seeing more kids going down the path of AP Stats rather than Calc this coming year. Pre-calculus enrollment, which is not a college-level course, but it's a great indicator of what students will do their senior year. And it's not shown in our document here tonight, but it's up more than 75 students from last year. So that's really exciting that we're seeing more kids enter higher-level math classes by their junior year. Enrollment in AP Biology and AP Chemistry is slightly down, which is what we expected because CAP Biology and CAP Chemistry are pulling some of those students. But as you recall, AP Biology and CAP Chemistry is really the same curriculum. So those students will be in the same classroom with each other, they're just earning the credit a different way. And with AP Chemistry, although AP Chem is down, just very slightly, we saw a huge desire for the CAP Chemistry, which is a 10-credit college-level class. So that's really exciting for those students who have signed up for that. And lastly, we introduced 2 CAP programs within World Language. And as you recall, the AP levels for both Spanish and French has been pretty non-existent and on a decline for the last 5 years. CAP Spanish has had just a revitalization in students' interest in higher level math courses. We'll be offering 2 sections of that next year. 54 students have signed up for it. And at this time, I don't believe we have enough to run CAP French, but we're looking at our numbers in both French 1 and 2, and those numbers are really strong, so we're hoping that in a year or 2 we'll see more interest at that level. Are there any questions?
So for the CAP communication, is that enough students to run it?
Let me just pull that up.
It's 10.
Yep.
Yep.
So the CAP communication class is similar to TC Communications, which is transcripted college credit through WCTC. And so Mr. Irvine and I are currently looking at that along with the CAP instructors, and it will likely be combined with that class. And the 2 curriculums, since they are so similar, it will be quite easy to differentiate. We're just making sure we have approval from Oshkosh to do that.
So what do we do with, let's take AP US History as an example.
Sure.
Where the number basically goes in half.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with that teacher that was teaching maybe 3 or 4 sections, and now they might be teaching 1 or 2?
So social studies is actually a really interesting example because it's required 3 years for all of our students to take social studies, and we have a number of AP and just elective credits in the social studies area. So although U.S. history is down, the social studies department overall is actually up quite a bit to the point where they actually may be hiring an additional teacher. So social studies numbers are decreasing. Just that one class is decreasing. We're seeing kids just go into other opportunities.
And then a second question, if I could. So on the like the AP French where there's only 1 kid, or the AP Studio Art 3D where there's only 2 kids. So if we're not going to offer that class, then what do those kids do?
Specifically with an AP, certain AP classes like a world language, we would offer those students WVS so they can still have the opportunity to take the class. Sometimes in art, what we've done is we've put multiple courses in the same class period. So for example, 2D and 3D art has been combined historically in the past. That happens every year, just based on numbers and what the need is. But in some cases, we don't offer it. As an example, art history is offered through WVS, so that might be a course that we offer to students through WVS, or Mr. Irvine and the art department might look and say, we can really offer all 3 of these in one period and it can be accomplished. But those conversations happen with the teachers who are directly impacted by that.
And for the people at home, WVS is the Wisconsin Virtual School, so it's just online learning.
And you touched on how one teacher will be teaching both the AP and the CAP class together. Is there a big difference for them in terms of teaching the student, or is it pretty much the same lectures, same tests, everything pretty much is across the board? It's just either they're taking it for CAP credits or AP credit. Is that correct?
So not all CAP classes are equivalent to an AP class, but an example of one that is close is AP Biology and CAP Biology. The 2 curriculum for that coursework is nearly identical, but it might look different for a student in the classroom because if you're taking it as an AP course, there's a lot of test prep where students are taking practice AP tests, where the CAP students would need to engage in that work. So there will be differentiation occurring, but overall the content is the same. But if you recall CAP Chemistry and AP Chemistry, the curriculum was too different for us to be able to offer those in the same class. So those are running totally independently of each other. So it really just depends on whether the curriculum is similar enough or not.
And we have enough students in each that it's not an issue.
Right.
Classes. And the big difference when you do combine with CAP, where's the cutoff where if they start out the class and decide, no, I'd rather do it as AP, was it a week, 2 weeks, or?
It's, Oshkosh sets their date of like the first week in October, and that's true for all college students, so we are on their timeline for that. And at the high school, it's the second week in October to drop a class.
But a student could be taking the CAP chemistry class, correct me if I'm wrong, and decide in April to take the AP, or May, I'm sorry, to take the AP and just pay the fee for the AP test. So they don't have to.
So could they have CAP and AP credit for that class?
They can't.
Okay.
The college will flag that as academic dishonesty. If they try to get credits for, let's say, AP biology, and they're also getting credits for CAP biology, because those count as the same credits at the college level.
What did you say they flag it as?
Academic dishonesty, which basically it's like you're trying to scam the college system by saying you have more credits than you do.
Okay. Thank you.
On the AP classes at CAP, is it usually one teacher that teaches it all? So if you had, by the numbers here, if you had 2 or 3 AP or sessions, let's say Euro, AP, Euro, is it one teacher that only teaches that, or are there multiple teachers that teach it?
It depends on the department. For a department like social studies, because there are so many teachers within that department, most of those teachers are single AP teachers, where they're kind of experts in their own class. But we do see classes like art is a great example, where the same teacher teaches all 3. So it just depends on the size of the department, how many AP classes they offer, and the capacity of a teacher.
And then your comment on the math, generally what data do we, I guess, use to determine why we think people are choosing this path versus that path? Just out of curiosity, are they student surveys, or is it simply, are we interpolating data?
Well, would you mind, are you specifically referring to?
More for the math, where they're doing pre-calc, or they were, and now they're doing, I think you brought up that the AP pre-calc is down, right? And stats is going up. So I'm just curious how you determined that was the reason they dropped the AP calc.
Sure, yeah. Based on our senior level participation in Calc AB versus stats, those 2 classes just did a flip in terms of the number of seniors participating. Stats saw an increase, Calc saw a decrease. We didn't survey students to find out, why or where.
You use that data, just the registration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this back, Christy. Oh, you're welcome. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay. Other than the contributions to the profession, this concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to other reports, I know under President's report there's supposed to be a report for me. However, I have not spent the time I want on that to go over it, so I'm going to bring that back next meeting. Moving on to board member reports. Any board members have a report? Hearing none. Moving on to resolution action items. 7A, 2017 capital projects contractor approval.
Motion to approve J.F. Ahern as contractor to replace the late new chiller at a cost of $124,665.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Any you want to?
Back in the fall, I brought forward a proposed projects for this coming cycle of capital projects. And leading up to years in the past, we always had $400,000 that we had budgeted for capital. This summer, we're planning to do $550,000, which was able to be achieved through some efficiencies that we've made. So the first thing on here is the chiller, which is requiring a lot of maintenance and upkeep and is beyond its life cycle. There is a $12,000-ish credit from Focus on Energy, and it is newer technology, so it's a 5-year ROI based on our usage for the chiller. And the last thing I would add is that we're actually going to pull the chiller off to replace it, so we thought it would be a good idea to replace the roof underneath. It's a small section, so we're bidding that out currently. but that way we don't have to pay double to bring a crane in again to redo that process when we have to do the roof, which is due soon, so. Questions you guys might have? Yes?
Chairman, I see the other bidders there, and the one was, within a couple $100.
Yep.
So, what's our policy or our practice on that when you have two bids that come in essentially identical?
Yeah.
Is there if you had brought back the one that was $200 and some more and said we're going with this one, on a $125,000 job, I'd been all right, whatever. But what's the criteria when two bids are essentially the same?
Yeah, great question. We actually tossed that around ourselves when we were interviewing. So for this one, because it was so close, we did interviews afterwards and got a feel for their suggestions and any change orders. So within this bid, there was actually probably 7 little alternates. So we had to go through each little thing. And for the second place company, there were some uncertainties and things that weren't included. So we went with our comfort level of somebody that spoke to it very genuinely, could provide us with follow-up information and really articulated the project really well. So it was really a comfort level, plus the level of detail afterwards. And actually, just as far as the response time, Ahern had continued weekly to give us updates and more information, whereas Total Mechanical sent us an email afterwards saying that they were on vacation for like a month and sorry for being late. So those are things that come into a $200 decision.
Where's, and not necessarily in this particular bid, but in general, where's that line? If they came back 15,000 apart, but the one answered your questions better than the second, or if they came back, 12,000, where's that line?
I would need to know that the scope is apples to apples, and I think the toughest thing through all projects is getting a very apples to apples bid. So if both companies are providing us the exact same thing and we have the exact same comfort level, we would go with the cheaper contractor. So.
Jeremiah, our purchasing policy does also outline some specifics that we consider as far as the quality, service, and delivery. If we've had experience with them before, whether that's been good or bad, we have the ability to look back at sustainability of products and make sure that we've had good experience. Other company or other districts may have had better experiences with one or the other. So we do have some specifics outlined in our policy that does allow us to kind of have that breakdown.
Any other question? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 7B, 2017 capital project contractor approval for the athletic field services.
Motion to approve Athletic Field Services, Inc. to recoat the Muskego High School track at a cost of $54,416.
Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Jeremiah?
So you may have heard that we have one of the top 85 fields in the entire nation. However, our track surrounding it is in pretty desperate shape. So this is to obviously remedy that. There's a lot of bald spots all the way around. The first step pre-season would be to fill those holes that are around, and really they're not holes, they're just where the asphalt is surfacing. And then the contractor would come back after the track season, apply a coat of primer to the whole thing, and then 2 coats of rubber to the surface and restripe it, so it'll be a really nice track. So there will be some improvements needed when we do go to turf, which will include putting curbing around the entire thing. So that'll be something that would come forward at that time.
How does this repairs that you're doing now, how does that affect any future field turf?
It doesn't. It essentially gives us a good track for the coming years. So if the turf doesn't go through, we're not sitting on this potholing and shoddy track for the next couple of years. So this provides us a good track. It doesn't do anything to the base of it. We're not pulverizing it, so it'll just be a recoated thickness. And I think this is due every 6 to 9 years, and I think we're going far beyond that. So.
But if we put in turf, we will not have to touch the track at all, right? Curbing?
We will have to put in curbing, and we'll have to determine at that time what we have to do to the track, because any waving in the track would then replicate itself onto the turf. So if there's some unevenness, then when you look at the turf, there will be that same unevenness. So we need to attach good track to good turf. So at that time, it would be determined what exactly would be needed to do with the track.
Well, with the surfacing, are we going to prevent that?
No. This is a coating that would go over the asphalt to allow for a good running
So it's
surface.
the asphalt that would cause the waiver.
Correct.
So if we were starting from a blank slate, would you put the turf in first, or would you put the track in first to eliminate that waviness?
I think it's important that they get designed together so that it's a one project. So it's a tough one to answer, but I would do it all at once to make sure that everything was aligned and designed correctly.
And we discussed this from the standpoint of what we need to do, looking at the additional projects in the future for the next few years that we would resurface for now, for short term, and then have a long-term option should turf actually come about, be a reality.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 7C, 2017 capital project contractor approval, Pawlowski paving.
Motion to approve Pawlowski paving for resurfacing of the Muskego High School tennis courts, cost of $81,800.
So moved.
Second.
You're on.
The tennis courts are, the surfacing on them is long overdue. It should be done every 7 years, and we're probably going on about 14 years. There's just low spots and puddling that's happening everywhere. There's cracks, so this would address crack filling, resurfacing, and really just give us a nice playing surface for the students and athletes in the coming years.
Better to fix the heaving holes and stuff.
That would have to be a complete pulverizing, so that comes about every 20 years. So those would probably get sealed in around the heaving, but believe it or not, those poles and the expansion cracks are actually strategic. They know that that's going to happen eventually, so they put expansion cracks throughout in very strategic spots, and that would include the poles too. So we have kept track. Every 2 years we do a sealing of the cracks, and if that goes undone, I think the East Troy district actually had to put brick pavers in the cracks because as the expansion happens, it just gets so wide. So it is strategic. We're not ready for a full overhaul, and when we are, what is the budget for a full?
65.
So $365,000 to redo the entire thing, which would take care of the heaving of the.
So is that changing the height of the nets based on the ground? Based on the surface? The heaving of those poles?
I'm sure it is a little. Our coaches haven't complained about anything. WIA hasn't raised any concerns about it. It is an issue. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost of $360,000. It involves tearing all the fence down, tearing out that asphalt, repaving it, basically starting from scratch.
How long before we'll need to do that then, if we do this?
I'd say we're probably 10 to 15 years. Hopefully.
So this would be like the final resurfacing.
They say you're supposed to resurface every 7 years. We haven't been doing that. I know now the tennis coach's concern is that if there's any moisture out there, that sandy grit that is supposed to be on there is worn off, so it's still pretty good. A lot of those spots with holes. This will put 2 layers of binder coat on and then 2 layers of color coating on. And then we should be good for 7 years when that's readdresses that and see how that is.
Those poles are installed below the cross line. Why are they doing that?
I would say that the entire athletic complex is built on a marshy land, and you look around the entire complex, and as far as the baseball fences, the tennis fences, it's just prone to heaving. So we brought in jacks to push everything back down, but it's an uphill battle because of the land that we're located on.
Our varsity baseball fence has heaved probably 14 inches in the last 13 years since it was put in. And we got a price of almost $10,000 just to come back and pound those posts down so that we don't have gaps underneath the fences. Right now, we're temporarily putting extra chain link under there to avoid that problem.
Probably affects about 3 or 4 games a year with balls going under the fence too.
I think it actually cost us the conference championship a couple years ago. So.
We'll omit that from minutes.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to D, 2017 capital projects, contractor approval, Bufus Cooperation.
Motion to approve Belfast Corporation to complete the Muskego High School varsity baseball warning track at a cost of $21,750.
So moved.
Second.
So this is a project that we've been piecemealing together over the last couple of years with Bufus Corporation. Sorry for the misspelling there. So this would finish out the entire warning track, and it has become a problem with standing water or flooding, and Steve could speak to it better than I can, but there have been games canceled when the warning track is completely wet. So this would be excavating and putting in new base, as well as putting in additional red granite, which has been serving us really well in the areas that we do have it along the infield.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item 7E, 2017 capital projects contractor approval, Muskego Concrete.
Motion to approve Muskego Concrete to complete concrete replacement at Muskego High School for a total of $47,440.
So moved.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
So the year before last, we did a whole lot of the sidewalk at the high school. Really the main entrance, there's two parts that are really remaining that need attention. One is just south of the PAC, a long walk, which there's a picture in the board docs. And then the other is on the north side of the school where the kids get dropped off in the morning. So both those areas are in desperate need of replacing and hoping to move forward with that. After that, the activities entrance has some weathering that could still withstand, so we don't need to do that right away, but that would be the last piece of concrete at the high school for replacement.
Was that just a bad batch of concrete? Because it seemed like all the concrete work around that high school fell apart within, I would almost argue within a warranty time period, but it was never addressed.
Yeah, as we've been bidding out or working together for the new schools, it's important to note that we need to be able to drive on the sidewalks with equipment for snow removal, and some of that may have not been suited for us to be driving on, and we've been doing it since 2003, so we probably expedited the life of it. Additionally, we really go heavy on the salt to prevent injuries, and salt is pretty tough on concrete. There are some areas that may have been compromised. From what I understand, it was the very last piece of the school that was constructed was the sidewalk, and I wasn't here for that time, but yeah, definitely needs replacement.
So will these be a little better quality that will handle them?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be keeping an eye on it. When they ripped out the last section, there was areas where there was less than 2 inches of concrete, so I'm not sure if somebody screwed up a number somewhere trying to save money. Our dump truck probably weighs 13,000 to 14,000 pounds. It's been loaded with salt. We're going with 5 inches of concrete, and then a 12-inch thickened edge, so it should be more than capable of handling this type of travel. And I would like to propose that we try to seal it as much as we can. This contractor told me about a sealer that's good for 5 years.
The other section that we did have done, we had sealed right after we had it done, so it's something that we want to incorporate into our concrete care.
With regarding the salt, is there another substance that we can use that isn't as harsh on the concrete that may cost more?
We've tried some things as far as, I think even beet juice and a couple other things that just haven't been effective. So we do use city-provided salt. In addition to that, we use solar salt, is essentially what you put in your water softener. So
calcium chloride is supposed to be better on concrete. It's 3 times the price at minimum. And I don't even know anywhere we can buy it for. A bag of blue calcium chloride salt is about $14 a bag. The salt that we would spread is about $2.50 a bag.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes. Item F, technology policy and administrative rules revision.
Motion to approve technology policy and administrative revision as...
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Second.
Tony, you're on.
Everyone, again, bringing back the phase one of our, what will be 39 incoming technology policies, is what I've been informed by our Neola reps. That's quite a few. So this is just the beginning. The reason of this one is its timeliness due to the ADA challenges that are coming down from the Office of Civil Rights. So there have been some complaints about whether or not websites offer the same type of accessibility they would with someone with a disability as those without. And they have, into our best interest and in all earnest, have to make that attempt to make the website as accessible as possible in terms of a communication and access. So part of that compliance is, again, using that WAVE tool to run over our website to determine how many errors there are, which is the top feature on that portion. And by doing that, we worked with our website host and designer, which is CMS for Schools. They've since corrected any of the errors that came about through that assessment tool. And of course, now we're just watching and waiting to see if other districts across the country, which now I think the count is up to 150, and how they're responding. So we do have, as I've mentioned here in the agenda item, we have our link to, it's a our website recommended host has the information about who to contact and who's responsible if there is a complaint. So we basically have a way for people to contact us in the event there is a concern. We also have now policy that directs us in this area. So it isn't just about being compliant. We do want to make sure our website is accessible to all. And at the same time, these policies are specifically related to that in terms of their changes. So that is kind of the priority item.
So specifically, what are, give me for instance, of a type of disability that they would expect us to have access for that we don't?
Yeah, how about this? And I'm not saying this is what was maybe an issue with our website, but I will use some examples if that's fair. One example might be that when you hover over an item, that a banner would be associated with that item. And in some cases, the accessibility on a device such as a laptop or an iPad would read off what's in that banner. So if someone has visual impairment as an example and they're trying to navigate our site, they'd be able to hover over our icons and it would read out what that icon is for. As opposed to if they had some visual impairment, they might not be able to make out what it is, and so it helps with navigational properties. That's just one example, and it works in unison with those accessibility features. So our website doesn't have to have all the accessibility built into it, but it has to work in accord with that.
Interesting. Any other questions?
I was going to comment, thank you for using and being transparent on your tools.
Yes.
I mean, I went to a dozen sites and dozens of errors.
Yes.
So it's nice to see that we're on top of it. So.
Something interesting is the website of OCR initially had many errors as well. So
that's good.
Touche.
Yeah,
yes.
thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item G, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to accept the following gifts. Thanks, Muskego High School, SC Johnson Giving, Inc., Muskego High School Bands, $1,250. Timothy and Kathleen Fisher Robotics Program, $200. Precision Screw Thread Robotics Program, $500. Badger Meter Robotics Program, $250. Muskego High School Gridiron Club Football Program, $6,955.75.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see the robotics program is kind of catching on in the community.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to discussion items. 8A, 2017-18 budget assumptions.
So we do have a budget update for you today. As you know, the governor's budget was rolled out on February 8th, and a lot of that obviously still has a ways to go before the actual budget is approved. However, we do know that there are some assumptions that were made within the budget, and so we've started building scenarios around what our budget could look like pending the outcome of those budget recommendations. So included in your packet were a number of assumptions that we're making as we build the budget. Starting with expenditure assumptions, we're looking at health and dental insurance increasing by 3%. Obviously, we're self-funded, so that amount could change. We just don't know. We have to get closer to September before we have those actual amounts, because that's our start date for our new plan year. Utilities, we're looking at a 1% increase. We continue to see savings in our energy efficiency programs. We do have salary increases aligned to CPI and the compensation models built in, as we usually do. Transportation is increasing by 3%. That's per the contract. Revenue assumptions. So what the governor's budget is looking at is giving school districts money in categorical aid. So that's not a state aid, state equalization aid, so it's not part of the revenue limit pie. So when we talk about us getting new money either through revenue limit or through state aid, there's an impact to taxes. This money is actually outside of the revenue limit, so it's just additional revenue to our current budget. So there's no revenue limit amount built in, so we're assuming a 0 per pupil increase from the revenue limit perspective, and no new equalization aid. The categorical aid, right now what's in the budget is a $200 per student increase this year and a $204 per student increase next year, on top of the $250 we already get for our students this year. So we're looking at a $450 per student and a $654, I think, per student in the next 2 years. That is additional money for us, and again, with that aid, we're not increasing the tax levy, so that is good news for us. There are, right now, some contingencies built into the budget, we think, that say that we have to, as a school district, comply with a lot of what Act 10 has put out, or was put out back in the day, that we have to be in compliance with that in order to get those monies. There's still a lot of clarification that needs to be made on that. So we are very cautious with running the scenarios with that amount of money. But we are looking at different scenarios, including $50 more per student, $100 more per student, and the $200 more per student. So that when we bring back scenarios as far as what we have to cut or what we can potentially add back and bring those tiered information back for you to make decisions on, you'll have kind of a range of options to choose from, and we'll be in a good spot to be able to say, okay, if the budget ends up here, this is what we're cutting or this is what we're adding. We're also, because we're in the very early stages of a 2-year biennial budget, running various enrollment scenarios of either flat enrollment, an increase of 50 students, and a decrease of 50 students. So right now, and Jeff, I don't know, we're looking at about a 40 student decrease as of right now with enrollment where it's at. But again, going into August, we still have so many kindergarten students that come in. So we're hoping for a flat enrollment or slightly increasing, but we are going to prepare for a decrease as well. And then the board approved open enrollment seats in January. And then with all of that information, because that categorical aid is outside of the revenue limit, we are looking at a tax levy decrease, again, for the 7th year, based on actually all the scenarios that we're seeing. So looking at good news for the tax levy. Our next step for the next meeting, again, is to start bringing back some information for you on actual costs associated with these. And again, putting down those tiered items for you to start looking over as far as what our cuts are going to look like, if any. If we end up with the $200 per student, and we have like worst case scenario declining enrollment, we may only have to cut about $150,000, which would be awesome. And if we increased in students in that same scenario, we would potentially not have to cut anything with all of these assumptions built in. So we could be looking at a good budget year, hopefully, but we have a long ways to go before we know for sure.
You had mentioned the Act 10 compliance. When you go through that list, I actually thought we were fully compliant, but if we're not, can you give us a list of the things we are and aren't, or the things that we're not?
We are in compliance actually with everything, with the exception of when we move to our health insurance policy, our new health insurance policy, because we have a priority and a preferred plan. There's 2 different plans. In order to have the priority and the preferred, we had to have a certain split between the 2 as far as how many people took one versus the other, because the priority is a very narrow network, and part of the program was to try to get as many people into a narrow network, but also give people options to remain in a very unnarrow network if they wanted to. And so the premium difference between the 2, the priority plan dropped to a 10% copay. So it's down from the 12% because of that split that was needed. So we'll bring back more information, though. We will easily be able to be in compliance and move those premiums up. And then if we want to keep costs low for employees, we're going to start looking at some wellness opportunities like participating in HRAs to bring down premium and things like that. But that would be the only one that we wouldn't be with that one program at 10%.
Right. Any other questions?
So, categorically, looking at about $1 million additional each year for the next 2 years.
Correct. If we got the 200, yes.
So when we do our budget then, are we gonna, it's gonna be tiered, just like the previous ones where we'll do worst case and we'll have tier 1, how we would accomplish that, tier 2 and tier 3. Okay.
And then most likely, because of where the scenarios could take us, like I said, there may not be cuts. The leadership team has actually worked through a document and a process, the zero-based budget process, where we started to develop potential wants or needs based on new programming or things that may be going into place at the schools or district-wide. Those will be brought back to you in a tier as ads that we would be requesting, but those would come from you as well.
As well as what you could subtract and meet
As well,
the budget. Okay, good.
Yeah, the reductions, absolutely. Additions is something we don't usually talk about, so it's
No, I mean,
exciting.
well, I want to see them both. I'm fine with that.
We'll have both, yeah.
All right. No other
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Item B, MPC update.
So we are continuing down the road of, finalizing many of the aspects of our projects related to the referendum. This evening we were talking with the Plan Commission at the city, talking about the middle school water. And so we just continue to work through many aspects of each of the projects. Our first, just as a reminder, our first CPT with subcontractor approvals will be March 1st, so that's right around the corner. And those will be coming back to the board then for action right away on March 6th, which will be our next board meeting. So just, it seemed like so far away, and yet now it's, we're talking just a couple of weeks, so very exciting. And we continue to have discussions and create plans for our tiered approach to address the additional projects at the high school related to the football and pool needs. And I know that during the committee of the whole last week in the operations component, they did share with you some of the renderings for the football and the pool, but those are also available to you at the links in the administrative content area, so feel free to look at those. If you have questions about that, feel free to let me know.
That was the Public Works Committee, right?
Oh, Public Works, I'm sorry. I did say Planning Commission.
Would be much more of an advocate than what the Public Works. Thank you.
Probably be more
Thank you.
organized.
Thank you for the, yes,
I could keep
the
going, but
clarification.
we'll just have it.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Hearing none, moving on to item C, naming of schools, which would explain why we have extra guests here tonight. Courtney's just showing up to one of our meetings.
Haven't seen her in a while.
Right.
Rick, I understand that we have a policy, a school board policy, naming and so forth, but to be honest with you, what I would like to see is Muskego and Mill Valley get together, Test Corners and Country Meadows get together, and Bay Lane bring to us maybe 1, 2, 3 choices of names, mascots, and colors. And we would discuss those and basically make that decision based on if we thought there was an inappropriate name, mascot, or color. And I would say most likely move forward with what their first choice is. But why not put that out there to those schools and those schools' communities and those choices, to be honest?
Well, as far as me, the only opinion I have really has to do with this building, and it has more to do with the history of it. And I feel strongly about myself if the vote were to,
go to a vote on what we're going to do is keeping Mill Valley as Mill Valley. Majority, I mean, we're going to have a large percentage of the students that are already here attending that are Mill Valley students. Assimilating in Muskego L into the Mill Valley community, I think can go smoothly. A name is just that, a name. It's not the important part of the building. However, there are a lot of people in the community that have gone to school here, that their children have gone to school here, that have a historical tie to it. The Muskego as a community was the Mill Valley area. I mean, Muskego didn't come together like a lot of cities do, where they grow from the center out. We were almost like 4 or 5 tribes that kind of came together, and one of the tribes was this area, and we have one of our schools named after it. That's my personal opinion.
That's your personal opinion.
And I'm not completely against that. I just
I think that if Mill Valley and Muskego L bring together their communities, and maybe put the word out to even parents and alumni that are no longer here to attend those meetings, if that's the overall feeling of these communities, that's what it's going to be. But I kind of like to hear from them. And we can debate it.
Well, it's not a
here.
debate thing, and I stress that this is just my opinion. It wasn't the direction I'm pushing for or anything else. So I want the board to weigh in on this, and through this discussion tonight, we'll figure out what direction we're going to go.
Well, I'd like to add something to Eric's thing that I think would just add to your request or your ideas as well. Eric, I like your approach where get the communities together, the school communities, come up with names and colors and mascots, and maybe 3 of them, 2-3 of them, but then add to that why they want that name. What's the significance behind that name? Which, to your point,
to justify
why that name is.
I don't know. This is when we were on that FST, that first team, and we toured those schools. When New Berlin, I think, combined their schools, there was a school there. I can't remember the exact locations, but we went to 3 of them. This was the first FST. I don't think there was a school that kept their name.
That's New Berlin, and the last thing I want to do is follow
it. But I tell you though, it's a personal opinion here, but Tess Corner is the largest. And it's probably more of a name, but yet you could argue it for every school here. So at some point, what these schools did is they just made a new name and had these nice monuments or decorative awnings from each of the schools up front that honored each of those schools that became the new school. I mean, I think there are a lot of ways to do it. However, I think you're going to find that, there's just numbers involved. There's a 500 kids school merging with a 200. I mean, there's, people have a sense of identity with all these schools. Whether or not the school has 100, 200 people in it.
Or whether or not the name makes any sense.
Right, and so I think it probably needs to go out.
I'm not against, I think Dean's recommendation of adding a justification.
I'd rather hear
besides just coming out.
And it'd be nice to have the schools work together. Yeah. Because if we have Tess Corners and Country Meadows submitting separately, and here in Muskego L submitting separately, well, then it's going to be called Mill Valley, and it's going to be called Tess Corners.
Right. But I think the parents and the community would love to be involved in something like this, and those schools can manage it within their district boundaries. I mean, that would be interesting to see what a lot of the citizens who went to all these schools can come back to. I mean, it may be something we have to facilitate a bit.
I thought we were going to go out for...
We do have, what we have right now, and Jeff can speak to it, we have groups forming already between Muskego, the whole transition thing that Jeff spoke about a month ago. That's already forming. We just needed to know, can we talk about naming and mascots and colors with that team? We've already got the cross-team group going.
With Rick's idea, I think we need to spread this word out past those groups, those teachers and those parents. So we have many different avenues of getting the word out to alumni and parents of past alumni to be involved in this. And I think that is important, especially here. Well, even in Tess Corners too. I mean, those are 2 major areas of the city that came together as Muskego, Mill Valley and the Test Corners area. We still talk about Test Corners, fire department, and everything else.
They got a fire department, we don't even have one in Mosquito.
So Jeff, do you want to give a little background on Baylene's approach so far? Because obviously with a new building, we are going to have to name that building and talk about the mascot and the colors, and then how that could be folded into these other areas with some of the comments that the board has made so far.
Sure. So thank you. We have actually, as Kelly spoke to this a little bit ago, we actually have transition teams from each respective school that are ready to be formed. We put an interest survey out there to staff as far as who would like to represent some of the planning and preparation around what it's going to look like for the successful merge. So principals are ready to put those teams together, and we're talking already agendas and what that's going to look like. So we're just waiting to get a little bit more direction from the board on naming. So for example, what we've done at Baylane, we've invited students, parents, staff, and administration that have been part of 2 meetings so far. They're weekly until we have some type of recommendation that we'd like to bring forward to the board for conversation and consideration. But what we've done is we've contacted the Muskego Historical Society, and we wanted to find out a little bit more about the Muskego, about Muskego in general. The geographical significance to, in particular, the area off North Cape Road. Famous settlers here, people who have made a significant difference and impact here in Muskego that go way back, but also possibly even present day. So it's fun to watch the conversations happen. It's great to see our students and our staff and our administrators learning so much about Muskego that they would have never engaged in before. So it's pretty exciting. As I said, they're in research mode right now. The plan is to come with multiple different suggestions, several different recommendations where they've sought input from various people, and then bring that to the board for consideration. Perhaps the top 3 choices. If you'd like to direct how many choices we bring to you, that would be helpful also. We've been able to get the database established now for all the new families of the new schools. So we can now reach out in mass communication to those particular families that will be attending this new complex here, Mill Valley, Muskego Elementary, so to say. We have all the families that are going to be attending the new Country Meadows complex. So we can use that in communication and then other means to get the word out to alumni and public. So
I just have a comment there.
Yep.
Before I flip right. Yeah. Unlike curriculum or school start stop time, I mean, this is a community deal. This has to be everyone. I mean, every taxpayer that's putting a bill, I think has to at least have an opportunity to weigh in on this. I mean, it's a good way for us to engage everyone who's doing this. So that's great for doing the research. I know you didn't suggest we're going to go out, but at some point, I think we're going to have to, as the district, facilitate some method where we're seeking input from everyone. So when we come forward with whatever recommendation it is, it's got every single stakeholder had an opportunity to weigh in on this whole scheme. And so, and maybe your research then gives those names, if that's what I understand you saying, that'd be great, but it's probably going to be a longer process than I initially thought.
Well, and I think that the committee that you're forming and those groups that you're going through is a great place to do a lot of the work, maybe the framework of the naming part, maybe all of the other work that besides the naming that has to go into merging buildings and starting new ones. But because there's such a small window in time that these people are actually passing through these buildings, that's why, as Chris is saying, this is a community thing, and I think we have to find a way of doing that. So I'm not sure if the board wants to see the framework you come up with before we just, send you on your way, or how it wants to do it. I know Eric's shaking his head no, but I'm just saying to the board.
The biggest thing I think is important is that the 2 schools that are coming together, come together, and send us one recommendation of 2 or 3 options.
Yeah, but
We're not getting 7.
I'm just, like I said, I think Chris said it, we need to have this be a community effort, not just these groups, so.
And I would may facilitate community.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
I think we need one point of contact for each set that we have, whether it's a principal or whoever, just so they can kind of direct times where people can show up with their input, whatever, so.
We'd probably do a survey, would probably be a way to really build that access.
And I agree with everything that's been said. I want it to be a community effort. My addition to that is the name has to make sense. Bay Lane Middle School isn't even on Bay Lane. The mailing address is not even Bay Lane. Why is it called Bay Lane? Somebody tell me that.
It's only on one street.
I can.
It's Bay Lane, you know the
Jeff
address.
knows.
Jeff knows. So we actually, that was part of our conversation with that group that we're meeting with at Bay Lane, to really understand the history behind how that school got named. It did go out to the community. In fact, the school board denied some of the names because it didn't follow proper board policy and what have you. So the students and the staff are learning about that right now. But Bay Lane was named the way that it was because there used to be a trail that connected the 2 lakes and the 2 bays. So therefore, when you're on that trail, you could see line of sight with 2 different bays. That is the historical significance behind it.
What's the historical significance behind Country Meadows?
The policy is very clear on what the criteria is for naming a school facility, so it's not
We're
just...
the breaker policy to do it, but.
Well, it may be, I mean, if some of the, but this is guiding the work, for example, at Bay Lane. They know that this is what policy indicates, so.
You can change the board policy.
If you want to do that...
These are guides.
Yep, if you
They're
want
not
to do
law.
that. But it is guiding the
I think they
process.
should look at the policy
Yeah.
in the beginning of their process. Not that it has to be to the T, but use it as a
Okay, well, we need a direction,
Got enough
and
direction?
we've got direction, so thank you very
I
much.
can get you a lot of, if you want to know any history about that,
pretty broad
plot of property for the middle school, I've got a book that was written on it.
That'd be great if you would provide that.
Well, the biggest was that,
White's Middle School.
Yeah.
oh, Schweitzer.
Just one other question, and I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in here, but while Lake...
We were ready to move on.
Thanks, Jeff. I thought we moved on.
Hey, the rough stress tonight.
I'm sorry.
I just feel like we should mention it just to honor the fact that Lakeview also is merging and pulling from different populations. It was not put in the public content here, but again, I just thought I'd bring that forward so that if people from the public question, at least we've had that conversation and consideration.
Well, I was thinking of Jeff Peterson Middle School until you threw that monkey wrench in, but... No, that is a very good point.
I disagree with Brett. I don't think that that's a stretch. I mean, it's just redistricting boundaries, and we're not going to go through. If we're going to use that as a policy of looking at school names, I mean, we could be looking at this every 10 years.
So it has to have a compelling reason for the board, and what I'm hearing is that there's a compelling reason to consider changing Mill Valley and Country Meadows, but there is not a compelling reason to change any other schools, the physical...
In my humble opinion.
Anybody else
People with brains here.
believe that there's a compelling reason to change? Okay. All right, so those are the 2. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And then obviously the new middle school because it's a new school.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
We just can't keep naming it the school in Northgate.
Can I ask a
Or
question?
maybe contact.
Can I ask a question about inside the buildings? What do you do about things like that?
So,
That should go back to...
yeah, so our goal is to have a piece of everything. It won't be a stage. I think it's going to be a book storage room. I think they're actually going to be closing it off and maybe lowering that floor,
Dropping that stage.
from what I understand, so it'll be different. But I know we're trying to gather memorabilia from all the different buildings and have some sort of
area to remember all those pieces.
Well, I've had, just since we're kind of on all that, I had a couple community members suggest that we have an open house, and I'm sure we will, just after the last day of school or something, for each of the schools that we will be getting rid of. And since they're going to be working on Mill Valley this year.
Hard to have a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Charge them a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Do you want me to address that? Can I comment on that? So Brett, that's a really good question. Actually had Tracy DeAngelis reach out to me, who, as you know, planned anniversary of Muskego events, and we've had a couple conversations now about holding some type of open house or transition event at each of the respective elementary schools to pay honor to the history there, and invite the community to be able to visit the school one last time, have memorabilia there, and just allow this to kind of be an opportunity to visit, but also, to move on also. So we're going to be working with Tracy and other interested volunteers to plan those events.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything else on naming?
Just to see them. Kind of.
Ask away.
Are we in line with what you were thinking, or not? And if not, please step up and tell, you may have some other ideas that we're missing here.
Well, it is a point of conversation amongst the staff. I feel that the staff themselves want to have ownership and a piece of them. So as you can tell, like the Muskego Elementary staff they're saddened by the thought that their school's closing. So I think they want to feel a part of it, and even if the naming of it includes some piece of them, that might help them along. But we haven't really figured out how to do that exactly. Some of the ideas you shared are really great. It's going to be an interesting process. I don't know if you've had any chance to.
And we're in a similar place, just with conversations starting just with the administrative team. I think Test Corners Country Meadows is unique in that Country Meadows will be the smaller population, but it's the same physical location, obviously, where then Test Corners has that same feeling and emotional piece, but so does Country Meadows, just in a different way. So just how is that honor given and that voice heard from all of those different stakeholders? What would the process look like?
Very good. Thank you. Item 9, information follow-up. There's personnel rumor in there for your purview and monthly budget statement. Any other information requested? Hearing none, moving on to 10. Vote for closed session.
So, second.
You got to read the statement. Sorry. Sure.
Vote for closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.8, for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of specific employees over which the board has jurisdiction, specifically teacher non-renewals and DAPES review. Wisconsin State Statute 1985, sub 1 and sub E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating concerning public property, whatever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically property sale.
Now can I get a
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in closed session.
It is right down the hallway on the left.
Thank you.
You can use it on each other.
So did you stay because you were interested, or did heaven not tell you you could leave at 8 o'clock? All right, that's fine. Just, I didn't want to make it sound like we were kicking you off. I was going to bring it up earlier. Before I forget, Mandarin. Did you teach it that much?
Is it awkward? Yes, I'm like...
Christy.